Hi, and welcome to Death Diner. Today we have Gracelynn, who I met through Luna Peak, which is a nonprofit that photographs um, breast cancer, not breast cancer, but all kinds of young cancer survivors, all kinds of cancer survivors, and kind of tells their stories through not just photographs, but words too. They made a coffee table book that's out that is wonderful. And Gracelynn also does TikToks on grieving and how to grieve. And there's no right or wrong way to grieve, but it's kind of a fun take on how a person grieves. And so here's Gracelynn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Um, so we met you a couple of years ago. We had you do some shoots for us for House of Volta, and you did a wonderful job. And it was so nice to get to know you, and it's your aunt, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love that you guys have the little like picnic. We have like the word is like escaping me. I'm just going reunited and it feels so good. Like what's the word I'm thinking about? It's not reunion. What is it?
We had like a National Cancer Survivors Day
Yeah.
reunion with some of the participants. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've met a lot of great people like Shar. I met through you guys, and she's an awesome advocate, and I wouldn't have known her without you guys. And let's see. Let's get into your story. Let's talk about how you got started with Luna Peak and the daily grieving.
Yeah. So, you know us basically through the nonprofit work.
Yeah.
And when we photographed you, I think that was back in 2018. So,
Yeah.
quite a long time ago.
Seems like
But
it
I'm
doesn't
like, oh
seem
gosh.
like that long. Yeah.
Yeah. Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started photographing cancer survivors. And that stems from my aunt's journey, Melody, and she's the other co-founder of Luna Peak. And she had this idea to humanize cancer because it is still a very scary topic to talk about and to see and to go through. And so it's kind of similar to you, right? It's taking photos and showing the reality and for empowering people through their stories. So we got started on humanizing the topic of cancer and showing all different types of cancer survivors from different walks of life, different backgrounds. And we were able to put together this book, Beyond Remission, which you are in.
Yes.
And we continued on with this trend of taking these photos and telling stories that are previously untold. And we started doing a grief book as well, because as much as people don't want to talk about cancer, they really don't want to talk about grief and death. So we started a similar large-scale photography project, and we interviewed and photographed over 80 grief survivors, all different types of loss. We have partner loss, child loss, parent loss, best friend loss, all different types. And we wanted to figure out how people navigated their life after loss. So the inspiration of this is that I lost my dad in 2016. And it was a really sudden loss, and this was totally ground shaking for me. We call it a life-changing loss. So for both me and Melody, this is something that we personally wanted to explore. So it was about 2 years after loss that we started on this other book and project. And we just wanted to see the eyes and faces of people who we could relate to, because everyone around us is grieving, right? Either they're grieving now or they will grieve in the future. But the conversations about it, like the nitty gritty, like, are you also, crying in your car on the way to work? Like, all of these small little moments, those aren't really talked about. So when you start going through it, you feel completely isolated and alone. And especially if it's your first time, grieving an impactful loss like that, it's a really lonely journey. So we put together all of these pages and features of people to show, how did you pick up the pieces? How did you get to a place where you've rebuilt this new life after loss and that you're smiling and laughing again? So that's kind of, the inspiration for why we started to do these projects. And more recently, like you mentioned, the TikToks and the memes and stuff like that. We're very much into dark humor, and we're all going through these terrible topics. I know, you're the queen. So we might as well laugh about it, while we go through it.
Yeah. I lost like a soul friend, like not just like a friend, like a soul sister, and my mom within like 2 months of each other. And people are like, oh, how did you deal with it? And I'm like, I have so much unresolved trauma. You have no clue. But what I did find out that when I'm in extreme amounts of pain, I can't squash it. And so it doesn't become about like the pain that I'm in. It becomes about I can no longer mask. And I was like, oh, this is a fun discovery.
Yeah, this is new.
Right. And so it just keeps going. Like the longer you're in pain, the more you're delving into like how huge this loss was for you, and for how impactful this person was in your life. And you can't, like, I personally can't stop the like downward spiral of like, I can't believe this person's gone. Right. And so being in the cancer community, I think like this is really important, because we don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody plans their death. Nobody wants to think about being gone. And I just want to do my part to open up that ucky, book of souls, or however you'd like to say it, that our names are all written in, and have us not be so scared. And I mean, ultimately, like religion wise, nobody's really gone and come back, and anybody that did, nobody believes them anyway. So it's like, how do we make peace with our demise? And people that have had cancer, or like, like you lost your dad suddenly, and then I'm sure that made you think about your own mortality, right?
Definitely.
And what you wanted the rest of your life to be like. So how did that change your outlook on your life? I know that you did that great climb like a couple of years ago, right? If you'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, I'd love to. I would say before my dad died, I think I had come to a place where, if somebody had said, one of my good friends had said, we're going to die. And he was saying that in the context of, we need to still like live our lives and go out and still have fun.
Yeah.
And at the time he was dealing actually with his dad's terminal diagnosis. And so that was something that encouraged him. And I heard that and I was really shocked. And, I soon like started to like let that sink in. And then I started to adopt that too. And that became less of a scary thing, right? We do have to live our lives. We have no idea, when it's going to stop. So I think before my dad died, I kind of came to that realization that the phrase "you're going to die" is actually a motivational rather than a scary
it is
phrase, right?
It is.
It's hard to kind of, get over that. But, once you do get there, it is actually really an exciting type of phrase, right? Like we should go forth and live our lives. So before he died, I got to that point. And I think after he died, I think that, really solidified it, where, we have absolutely no idea when our lives are going to end.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, I think it like shocks people. I don't have much of a bucket list because I try to just do everything
Right.
that's on my
Right.
bucket list. And I think if I were to even die today, I don't think I'd have any regrets with how I was living my daily life.
Right.
And part of that also was, creating this nonprofit afterwards. I wanted to do work that was fulfilling. I wanted to connect with people and find more incredible souls like you, and to actually hear people's stories.
Yeah.
Like, this is really what makes life worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting thought. We're going to die, and to be in touch with your own mortality is such a powerful, encouraging thing, in my opinion. But it's made me definitely embrace adventure more.
Oh, I know you have to come in, or the dogs have to come in. I know you put your dog out before.
Yeah.
They will get very agitated if they don't get to come in. So, and sometimes what's
They
funny
want to
is
be a part of it.
like 10 minutes before it's over, like Lily will go like, I know it's winding down, and she'll come up and like have to give me a kiss. Like,
Oh,
so
that's
it's
so
pretty
sweet.
funny. Yeah, I think because I was such a morbid little kid that I'm on a call. Sorry, I'm on a. Can we do this later? You asked me to. Can we do it later? Bye. Since I was such a morbid little kid, it was always like not something I was afraid of. Like dying wasn't something that was scary to me. So it was I was afraid to suffer, and I was afraid to be a burden to someone. And it was kind of like once those two things got out of the way, then it was like, well, what are you afraid of? And it's like nothing. So it's coming up and realizing that a lot of those things that you're afraid of really aren't as scary as you think. I mean, dying is obviously scary, but there are books on that. Like, there are books on what hospice nurses have experienced working with people that are dying, what they've seen people that are dying go through. And there is like a predictability to it, and there is like a process everybody goes through towards the end of their life that is predictable. And I think sometimes what it boils down to is people are like scared of a life half lived. But then if you're scared of a life half lived and you don't do anything about it, there's nobody but yourself, right? And so ultimately it's a fear of, finding that, sometimes exploring yourself and finding that you don't like what you see. That's also on you. It's so much responsibility, and it's so much like stuff. And there's so many like contradicting ideas as to what like death is. And I just think what you do is great. And it's so needed in the world. And I think it's a bigger part of like what I'm doing. And if I can send more people your way, I don't even, so what are you doing now? Like, how are you continuing to work with this idea?
Yeah, so we're interested in taking this a step further. I think a really big push for us is telling multicultural stories as well, and to make sure that if we are humanizing and using photography to represent this entire group, then we need to show everyone who is grieving, right? It is a responsibility.
Right.
So we have these books, and we're trying to get them out. We're trying to make them accessible for different communities. So through our nonprofit and publishing house, which is through our nonprofit, we're able to do book donation programs. And so we're trying to get these into therapist offices, to support groups, various individuals and families, hospice, retirement homes, hospitals. We actually just went to a hospital to donate some care packages full of some of Melody's cancer books. And, you know, something that we didn't anticipate was, you know, we try to keep the cancer and grief separate, right?
Yeah.
You know, our first book is for cancer survivors and fighters, and the second one is for grief of all types of grief, not just, you know, grief from losing someone to cancer.
Yeah.
And what we were really shocked by is, you know, we're delivering these to a pediatric cancer ward, and we have the nurses saying, can you also give us some grief books as well? So we're starting to see the overlap between it. You know, for the patients who don't make it, you know, are there resources that we can give at the moment of loss or at the moment of diagnosis? Just
Right.
something to, you know, give a sense of community, or that you're not alone, like right in that moment.
Yeah, something that's like a non-denominational, multicultural, like, balm, right? Because,
Yeah.
and then like also like for kiddies, because I wasn't sick when I was little, but I was told that I could get multiple sclerosis like my mom when I was little. And then I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm a goner, I'm gonna die. And then by the time I was 12, and they said that like breast cancer was also genetic, I was like, why even make plans? I'm not going to be around to see them, right? So I think like a grieving book for kiddies would be great. And I can just see in the environment that's going on right now. I don't want my kids learning about death, but it's like, it's so a part of life. It's so like, you know, you lose dogs, you lose, you know, I used to cry over every animal I saw that got hit by a car. Like, in the grand scheme of things, you have to understand, or have there be some way of like understanding that it's okay, you know, and that they didn't suffer. Or if they did suffer, whoever created the universe was aware of it and was kind to them and didn't allow them to suffer, you know. Like there's some schools of thought that say, well, basically it's disassociation, that when certain really awful things are happening to you, your soul leaves your body and you don't remember a lot of it, which is like ultimate grace, right? Because then you don't have to recall every little detail and every little detail of your suffering. Like, in a way, a lot of people that have gone through cancer treatment, like a friend of mine was talking about, how you disassociate when you're having like tests and stuff done to you. So like in a way, you're not even in your body when it's happening. So you don't even remember that it's happened to you and what all has happened to you. And if there's a way that you can like translate that over to like to be easier for people to digest, you know, would be great, because there's so many contradicting schools of thought that just make people feel more guilty, or that they can't be good enough, or that they're never going to be good enough, or that they're going to, once they die, they're going to be eternally tortured. Like, no wonder everybody's afraid of it.
Yeah.
when in reality, it's just, you know, you go back into the ether, and then it's just like you're in a warm bathtub. You know, everything feels beautiful and wonderful, and then that's how it is. But I think the fact that they're asking for them in pediatric facilities is just shows how much you're needed.
Yeah, we didn't anticipate kind of mixing the two subjects, but they actually are pretty intertwined, as we realized,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about this death positivity movement. I mean, that's such a strong theme in both. And I know grief is different from death and talking about death,
Yeah.
but all of these are related.
Yeah. My mom had been actively like wanting to die for quite some time. Like she, my daughter's 14, and we were talking about, she was asking what a DNR was. And so I said, my mom had a DNR, but I had to really fight for it because her doctor didn't want to sign it. He didn't want to agree with it. He actually left and was like, if you're not going to try and live, I don't want to help you. And we were like, are you not looking? She's quadriplegic and she can't eat. She told me, if I can't have coffee, I want to die. And I was like, I hear you. Like, she couldn't eat it. She loved eating. That was like one of the last like normal seeming things that she could do. And then when she had the G tube in and she couldn't eat anymore, she just didn't want to live. And her doctor just wouldn't. He's like, well, you're just giving up. Well, you don't realize what it's like to be in that body at all. And so you're just, there's like, where's the empathy? There's no empathy for having to live in a body that you can't raise your head. You can't eat. You can't move your hands. All right. So where's the humanity in wanting to prolong someone's life that doesn't want to be here? Right. So humanity is also, I guess, something that's like new to the medical field, which blows my mind. Like, humanity, shouldn't that have been like a prerequisite? But we all know that like the medical field and everything was like not about like people having feelings, and different colored people had different like pain levels and stuff, which is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
the dumbest shit on the planet. Like, so dumb. And so having to like unwrite or take that out of, or actually add the humanity back into the medical field and add the humanity back into like death care too, and just letting somebody like die in peace is something else that's like new to the medical field, which is like also blows my mind, but is like a plus side for what we're trying to do too, is create more humanity in suffering and more compassion for people who just basically got dealt a shitty card, um either way. And the thing that I've come to realize is like, even if they say people, oh, somebody did that to themselves, like, oh, they drank themselves to death, or oh, they, a drug addict or whatever, but nobody in their right mind does that on purpose. Nobody hurts themselves on purpose. They're trying to soothe the pain that's in their heart from stuff that's happened to them when they're younger or just throughout life. So they didn't do it to themselves. It's a trauma response. So even people that are in hospitals as a result of a drug overdose aren't there because they're like dirt bags. They're there because they're hurting, and humanity needs to be shown to them just like it's shown to somebody who's, has cancer, because they didn't ask to have all that dumb shit happen to them when they were younger. This just happens to be like the help, the, self-medicating factor that happened to work for them. So humanity across the board is like something that we're just greatly lacking, that we us are running the battlefield with our flag, for. And I think that's something we should both be commended for. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. I loved talking to you, and if you can let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so if you want to connect and share your grief story, you can go to our Instagram community. It's Snapshots of Life After Loss. So you can share your story, you can hear of other people's stories, see other photography from our Beyond Grief book. And if you want a sense of community in the cancer space, that is Luna Peak Foundation on Instagram.
Thank you so
and
much.
Stories in our book.
Yes. Thank you so much for being my guest today, and for being able to keep your dogs out of the shot, even though I couldn't. And I will see you on the interweb, and I love you as always, and I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.